just wait while we go live. Okay, so we're live. So now we just have to wait for some people to join us. And if anybody has joined us already, you're watching Stand Up, Fight Back, but we'll get to that intro in just a moment. So everyone just relax, stretch your arms, have a sip of coffee, wake up. It's Sunday morning. So welcome to the second new year. This new year being the year without Trump as president. That's official now. So I think we're going into a week of without Trump as president. So we should mark that occasion. So I see we have some viewers, quite a few viewers now. So hello everyone. So let's get started. I am Margot Paez. I'm a scientist, engineer, and occasional journalist. And this is my amazing co-host, who I believe is in the picture below me, the amazing grassroots organizer, Carlos Marroquin. You're watching our weekly Sunday morning show, Stand Up, Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. We simulcast on Facebook and YouTube, so please share us with your friends and family, and please subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. Today we have two guests. First, Cary Harrison. He's a syndicated radio host and extremely funny guy, so I hear, who will be with us for the hour. But before we dive in with our discussion with Cary, we want to do something a little bit new on the show. We have a very special guest with us. Her name is Antonieta Villamil. She's a Los Angeles-based bilingual poet who will be doing a performance for us today. Carlos, please tell our audience about Antonieta.
Antonieta, oh my goodness, so much to say, but I'm going to try to keep it brief because we want to hear her poem. Antonieta is a personal friend of mine. I met her during the days of Occupy. She has been relentless out there, speaking out through poetry. When do you hear her? Poetry is so very important because it has so much powerful messages behind it. So Antonieta, welcome to our show, and we would love to hear from you. The great poem that you have specially picked and selected for this show.
Thank you, beautiful people. Sweat Lodge for Mother Earth. Temezcal for Pachamama. Ancestors of earth and water, listen to our plea. Ancestors of earth and fire, witness this wound. Pachamama, Pachamama, Tankashila, Tankahea, Shewokielo, Pachamama, Pachamama, Pachamama. We dig out our hearts looking for the stone of ancestors' hands in our chest. Find ourselves ageless and burning fast in the long roads of their fingers. We enter the gatehouse, and as we sweat, the Arctic melts in our veins. Naked from pride, we roam under volcanic rocks, looking for the sign in the flames of earthy womb. Touch ancient fever with the eyes of our forehead. Ancestors inside the rocks, let your light in torrents of song stir us into this lodge of capitalist usury. Blinks in the sky the constellation Phoenix, as these words heal our lament into outrage, inflame our fever with the strength of all voices, witness the outrageous injustice, free the children from prison cages at the border. Today, let our crescent eyes drench the night. We daydream the awakening of Mother Earth. Witness her injury, grassroots to heal her wounds. Ancestors inside their rocks, unite our hands. Ancestors inside the stones, heal her wounds. Pachamama, Pachamama, Tankashila, Tankahea, Shewokielo, Pachamama, 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 Pachamama,
Wow.
That was amazing. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
We are definitely hope to have you back with us and tell us about all this feeling that is in your heart. Because I know that when it comes to climate change, housing, and all these social issues, you care deeply. And this is what you do, Thank you so much, Antonieta.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Antonieta. We're going to go ahead and just drop you now from the stream, but we'll get back in touch with you at the end of the show because we definitely want to have you back on when we do a special Poets Night. So we will have more to hear from her soon. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the show. That was absolutely wonderful, I have to say. So, Carlos, actually, why don't you also tell us a little bit about how you know Cary and why he's here with us today.
Cary, for about 30 years now, I have been, and I'm going to say this very proudly, I has been his personal letter carrier.
Oh, wow.
About 30 years. So I know Cary, his family to me. His family to me. I know him on the days that I was delivering mail in the city of West Hollywood, and great guy to speak with, always connected, always look eye to eye, always welcoming me, not only to the neighborhood, but also in conversations that were very thoughtful. I seek to him for advice many times. He's that kind of a guy to me. He's a brother, he's a family to me. Thank you, Cary, for being with us.
Wow, what an encomium. I will accept it and give it back as a double.
And I barely know Cary, but I did fill in for somebody who used to work with Cary, or maybe does he still work with you? I don't know.
Was this back in the old KPFK days? Probably.
Yeah. This was.
I remember you.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not there anymore. I'm on a bunch of commercial stations. That was a public radio station. But I remember you. You were like really smart, and then you had to leave. And I thought, well, that sucks.
Yeah,
but so it goes.
Doing the PhD thing, but Carlos finds a way to bring me back to this sort of thing. Yeah, but tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. Obviously, you're doing some stuff with the coronavirus. You have like the 60-minute segment. I mean, 60-second segment. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Tell us,
yeah.
tell us a little bit about your project right now.
Well, I'll give you a little backstory because I think everyone will relate to this. So, when listening to commercial radio, whether it's your relaxing, easy favorites, or your favorite death metal, or talk radio, whatever it is, back around February, you were thinking, well, there's nothing here about what I should actually do about the coronavirus. You could turn on CNN or whatever, and you're going to get graphs and charts and 80% of 3% of 2% and red lines going this. But you're saying, well, Amazon keeps delivering boxes. Can I touch them safely? Seriously,
Yeah, I mean, you get
right.
worried.
My neighbor just pet my dog. Can I lick my dog's fur as I normally would safely?
Naturally.
Real people questions. So I called up a syndicator that I'd had 10 years ago. And one thing you learn as you get older in life, don't burn bridges. I'm going to repeat that. Don't burn bridges. Even if you know you're right at the moment, these people will pop up again in your life later, and you can maybe do something good with them. So I called him up and I said, why don't we put together a Corona alert? 60 seconds, like runs 5, 6, 7 times a day. And we answer the basic 411 of what is this thing? How do you get it? Better yet, how do you not get it? That's the point of these things. So Corona alerts then went into Harrison's reality check so that I could talk about the Trump and other stuff. Of course, I've been smacked. No politics now. But we're clever and we find interesting ways to get those conversations in. So that's where I am now. And then amidst all of that, I started a webinar service because I realized one of the things that you could do on radio is talk one to many. And especially during tough times, we all need to be upskilled, which means many of the jobs that we all had are gone permanently, I hate to say, because corporations all over the world have had the best thing ever that could have happened to them, ever. And it happened in what would have taken 10 years. It happened in 2 weeks in February. And that is to blow everyone out the door and get ready your second home. My second home? I don't have a second home. Yes, you do. It's called the office. You drive to the office. They're paying for your second home. They're paying for the air conditioning, the elevator, the coffee, your health insurance, the box that you sit in, the manager that stands over you, and on and on and on. They're paying unbelievable volumes of money to run a huge hotel with all these people that stay for free, and then they got to pay them to stay and pay for their coffee and God knows what, pens, pencils, staplers. So in just 2 weeks, we're all blown out and told to go home and do it from home. Well, those of us who were able to figure out how to get our wireless printer to work, that's a win. How to pull it all together and figure out how to work from home. Those people will survive through the end of this. But these companies are never going to pay $100,000 a month to rent a building anymore. In fact, downtowns all over the country are vacating like ghost towns. Not only are the people moving to Montana or wherever where they figure they're not going to get the coronavirus, but companies no longer are going to be harboring these huge mortgages and huge areas to hold people because people figured it out themselves. Now, what's the downside to that? The downside to that is we're all Uber drivers. Nothing against Uber driving whatsoever. It's the model that's a little bit tricky here. So we're all Uber drivers because we now pay for our own office. We pay for our own printer. We pay for the ink, the toner, the air conditioner, our own renter's insurance, whatever it is. And then, and we work from home and they let us keep a little of the money that they make from us working at home. So we're just sitting in an Uber. So it's basically Uber alles, using the German phrase. So that's kind of the reality of it. And that's sort of the gist of what I talk about and try to get away with. The webinars, I bring on, Nobel Prize nominees, Pulitzer, guys that are at the TED Talk level, but no turtlenecks and little mics around the face. None of this like sport code, groovy, LA, None of that shit. We
Steve
get
Jobs.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, except that nobody's ever going to be a multi-millionaire just because you listen to somebody. And if I knew how to do that, I'd already be it. So we don't do that. We upskill. We give people the tools they need to survive and thrive in all the hard times ahead. And that's all any of us ever asked for. That's what you guys do week after week. That's what Carlos has been doing since I saw him from my letter carrier to a superstar in Occupy. You know, it's just kind of a small group of people who really push things forward. So I'm glad to be here. How is that for thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Carlos, would you like to say anything, ask anything of Cary?
Yes, definitely. There's so much to ask, and as you will see in today's show, time is gonna go by fast because there's so much to talk about. Cary, you have been very knowledgeable in politics. We see a big change right now taking place in the nation. A new administration. Trump is gone. Trump pretty much blew himself out. You know, the Republican Party is in a state of chaos. Uh, so, you know, there's pieces that need to be picked up, especially for those that are hurting right now. This is the fear that a lot of progressives have. And I got to get right into it because uh, none of us expected Biden to win, and none of us expected Kamala Harris to be the vice president. But that's who we have right now. Whether we like it or not, that's who the president is now and the vice president. Moving forward, based on everything that we know about both of them, being centrist, being, you know, corporate Democrat mentality, immediately Biden came in and made some major changes. At least, you know, he started this. What do you see? Do you see Biden moving to the left? Do you see a genuine change? Perhaps only time can tell. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's still a little early to augur the future, but if we take day one as a roadmap to the future, it's much more promising than any of us had ever thought. You're right about Biden. I mean, he has a long track record of standing in the middle. And the famous radical historian Howard Zinn, whose name many people know from History of the United States, People's History of the United States, People's History of the World, and other things, said famously, you can't be neutral on a moving train. And he spent many decades being very neutral on a big, fast-moving train. I think he probably took a page out of Obama. And we didn't get out of Obama what we had all assumed we were going to get. We just assumed having an African American in the White House is going to like really do some great stuff. And there was some great stuff, but there was a whole lot of not so great stuff, you know, business as usual. What Obama said that was very powerful, and I remember this in one talk, and he said, you have to understand, I can't just go do stuff because I'm the president. Well, of course you can. You're the president. Just go do it. He said, I have to have you make me do it so that I can get away with it. And he really showed us the house of cards. He has to get away with it if he's going to do it. And Biden probably was open to all of this stuff before. It wasn't like he, in his soul and heart, really wanted to just sit in the middle and do nothing. I think it's just the pain and agony of doing anything that's controversial. And everything is so bad right now that for him to do what we would consider radical moves doesn't really stick out as radical. It's like, well, shit, finally, you know, transgenders can fight in the military or whatever, any of the 17 things he did the first day. I mean, they're like, gone. And that's, I think, how he got away with it. Also, Ocasio-Cortez and others are sitting there right in, you know, with big, loud bullhorns. So I'm inclined to think that he will operate based on the heat and fire behind him. He's never had heat and fire in the Democratic Party because they're not known for that, are they? You know, the best we ever got was Chuck Schumer pulling his glasses down to the end of his nose and saying how disappointed he was. Disappointed? He should be outraged. Let me tell you the definition of disappointment. Disappointment is when in your guest bedroom in Nantucket, the cleaning lady forgot to fluff the pillow. That's a disappointment. What's going on in the world is friggin' outrageous. And Chuck pulls him down and says he's disappointed and clutches his pearls. That's our A+ in the Democratic Party. That's why people got so upset. So Biden has done something pretty extraordinary in just the first days. And you know what? Maybe an 80-year-old guy likes that. Maybe he feels young again. I don't know what. I don't even care. But whatever wind is behind his back going, yeah, come on, Joe, pick up that fountain pen. Let's see what you could do. You know, wield it like a sword. We may see something.
At least it's not. Yeah, at least it's not a Sharpie anymore, right?
And a magnifying glass.
There was like a whole thing about that on CNN this week. They were like, yes, and Joe Biden, now he has a whole box of fountain pens, unlike former President Trump, who always liked to keep a stack of Sharpies. So
or a super
like,
thick
how old are you?
marker.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to push you a little bit on this, Cary, because yeah, in a way, he has done some good things in his first 100 hours. He's committed us to go back into the Paris climate agreement. He's extended moratoriums. He extended a moratorium on student loan payments, which was not in that second stimulus package, but it was in the first CARES Act. So these were good things. But at the same time, and also there was the thing about DACA, right? So that was important. But at the same time, I feel a little bit like all we've done so far is reset back to 2016. Like we're 4 years behind where we want to be. And also, we still not have heard Biden say anything about really the healthcare crisis that is in existence in this country. A part of the reason why the pandemic is so fatal is because we have a dysfunctional and failing healthcare system, not just nationally, but at the state level and local levels, where hospitals are run like companies, like a grocery store. You know, this on-demand inventory thing. They're low staff. They're understaffed. They don't have enough PPE, things like that. You know, that's causing people to die because these emergency rooms are ill-equipped. So I'm wondering if what you're saying is that, you know, you mentioned Obama's, like, do we need to put pressure on these issues in order to kind of get us back up to speed for those 4 years that we've lost?
Yeah, Margot. I mean, you already know the answer is yes here.
Sure, yes.
And what a perfect time to put feet under his fire. Clearly, he responds to hot shoes. This is a good piece of information for us to have. So we just need to push him relentlessly, not a day off through this, not a day off. And the same thing with Kamala Harris. Lots of heat under her shoes. And we could push this thing. You know, we can call it the left, or we can call it just like common sense. We can match. I mean, I'll tell you what's truly opprobrious when you look at the grand scale of things. Germany, a country of ex-Nazis, has not a ton of deaths. They have universal health care, kumbaya, organic food for everyone, and 80% solar cells in all their houses. Ex-Nazis. Now, we're not ex-Nazis. We're still like running diesel trains. And all of that is planned. It's not like, well, we didn't know. We didn't know that you could put this stuff on the roof. We had no idea that you could actually have hospitals that are all interconnected. The first case of AIDS, as a matter of fact, which is 7-8 years ago, that was cured, AIDS cured, was in Germany because of universal health care. Well, wait a minute. How does that socialist health care, how can that cure AIDS when we have unlimited hospitals and universities working on it? How can a bunch of ex-Nazis, and we're not talking about Mengele stuff, but how do a bunch of, like, you know, bad people with crummy socialized healthcare cure AIDS? Well, it's simple. With their system, first of all the computers are connected. Yep, that's right. So they need a tissue match. They type in Timmy Smith, O positive. Brrr, up come all the people that are have companionable blood types, so they can do the bone marrow transfer, et cetera, et cetera. And then they actually cure the thing. And also, their doctors, and we saw this forever ago, it seems now, when Michael Moore did his cheeky movie on healthcare that had enough facts in it. But the doctors aren't like pay for play. Like, forget it. There's not enough people on my panel. If I could churn 6,000 customers, and own stock from the pharmaceuticals, ask your doctor about what other country in the world has ask your hey doctor, can you prescribe me this? Better yet, I'll prescribe you this, and this. Hold on, I got to check on my Wall Street apps here and see how my pharmaceutical. That is illegal. That is illegal. So, yes, we have a lot of work to do. And the key to everything is, as Howard Zinn said, we cannot be neutral on a moving train. Just because we have Joe Biden doesn't mean, yeah, no, we need to have a hangover from Trump. And it needs to be pounding our heads every day to get stuff done. Squeaky wheels, they do get greased. They just do. Nobody likes that. But they look at this. I'm picking up a Trump. They do get greased. So when in doubt, yell it out.
Yeah. So you said a country of ex-Nazis, but if even the Nazis had healthcare, universal healthcare, isn't that right? I mean, where are we? Are we worse? I mean, is our country worse than the Nazis in certain ways? I mean, what is going? And we have this like hyper capitalist system here that seems to be at a greater extreme. Yeah, in certain ways.
Interesting to say that, because before the Fuhrer came in, there was the Weimar Republic, something we all vaguely studied in school, and it was before Hitler. And the Weimar Republic was the German system that they had after World War I. World War I decimated the Germans. They actually did really well until their oil got cut off, and that's really what killed World War I, or they probably would have won. The Kaiser, the emperor of Germany at the time. So in the Treaty of Versailles, which was written by the British and Wall Street, brilliant, Wall Street, our Wall Street helped write the Treaty of Versailles. In it, it said that the Germans had to pay back every penny every country spent to fight the Germans, which seems like a very reasonable punishment. But all of that money had to flow through Wall Street. So they got their cut. I mean, really cynical. So it was a bar bill that the Germans literally couldn't pay because, one, they just got their ass kicked. Two, they had no economy left. They had nothing. They were flat earthed. Regular housewives were all becoming hookers just to eat food. I mean, it was so dire. You almost can't imagine. Germany. No, yeah, it was really, really bad. So in comes the Fuhrer starting in the mid 1920s. And he is the only guy standing up in beer halls yelling that the Germans got a rough deal with the Versailles Treaty. I mean, really, you wouldn't have done it to anybody else. If somebody had done that to us, we would have said, forget it. And he's saying, we really got a rough deal. And people are, as you can imagine, they're like they are today. They're lined up for miles trying to eat. They can't pay their rent. Their landlords are down their neck. Their women are having to do really unsavory things just to get by. And so anybody standing up there and saying, let's make Germany great again. Same old shit. How, by the way, does Donald Trump come up with all of this stuff that he seemed to invent? It came out of Hitler's second book. His second book? I thought he only wrote Mein Kampf, one book. That's the only one we all know about, right? Mein Kampf. His second book. His second book was published in 1929, and it was called My New Order. And you can get it on Amazon. You can order it now on Amazon for like $150. There are not a ton of copies out there. And this is probably one of the most sinister manuscripts ever penned. Here's what it's about. And it was just a parenthetical statement here. When Donald Trump got divorced from his first wife, Ivana Trump, how many did he have? Does anyone even know the total count of wives? Well, anyway, his first wife.
3?
3, 4, over, when it gets over 3, you stop counting. So in the divorce lawsuit from Ivana Trump to Donald Trump, the first and biggest objection she has is that he has a copy of Hitler's second book, and he's practicing it in bed at night while she's trying to sleep. This says one thing to us: he can read. So none of us
I'm
knew
shocked.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it.
So he can read. At least he can read Hitler's speeches. And 2, he could perform them. And he was practicing and practicing. And where does she come from? She comes from a country that, of course, the Nazis were attacking. So it's just not Disney magic for her. So what is my new order, or meine neue Ordnung? Doesn't that sound lovely? Isn't that charming? So in this book, what Hitler does, and this guy was a master, he took all of his speeches going all the way back to 1916 and annotated them and put them in a book. So the annotations say, when you say this, the crowd does that. If you want to go from here to here, use speech number 5, number 8, and number 9, and repeat these phrases 18.3 times. It's all in there. And that's what Trump was doing. And how do I know this? I mean, I wish I could just say, well, I figured it out. I did not figure it out. I got it from...
Cary, I'm disappointed.
I know, I'm disappointed myself too. But I ran across a Professor Bert Newborn, who may or may not be with us anymore. This is some months ago, and he was 90-something at the time. Professor Emeritus, and he was also a camp survivor. And an incredible professor. And what he did is he knew about this book, and he tracked all of the Trump speeches and all of the policies. Remember, these speeches turn into policy. That's why they're dangerous. It's not just you're saying it, it turns into what you do. And you have guys like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and pretty much anyone named Steve that was working with Trump making this stuff the law of the land. And he tracked it and brought it to my attention. And I think the New York Times did a tiny little piece on this, and then it kind of went away. So this is a very, very important instruction manual. And just circling back to the Germans, what happened is when Hitler was first introducing these speeches, and it was trade unionists instead of Mexicans, or Jews instead of Mexicans, or Mexicans instead of Mexicans, or Cubans, saltwater Mexicans, black people, sand Mexicans, you get the whole gist. And now we have QAnon, where we knew that Hillary Clinton was a lizard. That may be true. I really don't know. But the rest of it, with the child pornography and the pedophilia in Congress, probably true, but not enough. I mean, whatever. It's so nuts. And he learned this from these speeches, and he knew that 30% of America would go for it, because 30% of America, if you go, quick, find Canada on a map, ding, 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 ding. You know what I mean? So we got a problem here. But that's sort of how, I forgot what your question was, but I hope I kind of answered it.
I was asking, are we worse than Nazis? And I'm not sure if I got that answer that I was hoping, which was no. But I kind of think that maybe there is an aspect of our
we were talking about medical care.
Yeah.
So in the Weimar Republic, they had the medical care we have today, because they did not have socialized medicine. They'd been devastated, so they realized it was a la carte, full on. Buy what you need, you pay direct, you pay and whatever they decide to charge. I need a this. Well, that's 80,000 marks. And it killed everyone. And that's why Hitler came in and said, well, we're going to change it around and just make sure that everybody has medicine. Everyone has this, everyone has that. And they were so desperate that they went for it. So what is the analogy for today? We're all that desperate. This is a great time for Biden to say more people have died in the U.S. than in all of World War II. In the U.S., not places like the entire continent of Australia, where a handful of people have died. And the whole continent of Australia. Why? Because they have universal health care. I mean, this would be a good time to actually push that in. But he doesn't really want it. He really doesn't want it. He's still tethered to all these big companies and all pharmaceutical companies. It's no longer illegal to literally own the stock of the stuff that you create the laws to write for. There's still an ethics policy, but it's a policy. It's not a probability. It's just a policy.
Yeah.
But so turn on the heat.
Cary, really important because we know this, that the first 100 days are most likely the tone setter for the administration. What's going to happen for the next 4 years? Pretty much everything gets done at the beginning. Everything else begins to just be filling in as needed. But right now, I think these are the most important 100 days also for the progressive movement. Whether we are going to fizzle out because we don't like Biden, or we're going to stand up and put the fire under their feet, which I think is critical, and we need to reemphasize why this is so important. We're going to see pretty much a lot of new policies coming out using the pandemic, just like corporations, as you explained. Corporations, that was almost like the best gift that happened to them as far as economically, because it saved them a lot of money that they no longer have to pay rent. The same way for us right now, we need to make some drastic, changes, and we need to push for them because, again, the pandemic gives us that opportunity right now to emphasize, like, on Medicare for all, why this is so important. What else can what are some thoughts that you think, or some ideas that need to be implemented right away to push for better policies and the ones that we have been fighting for? Climate change, for example, all those things.
Well, the good news is we have John Cary handling the environment, and he's the real deal. He actually really seriously really cares about it. So it wasn't just pull him out of nowhere. Oh yeah, I remember him. He ran for president back in 2000. No, he is a serious climate advocate. We have some pretty good people there. It's so simple. In our system, it's all about how many faxes, tweets, tweets now work. It's pretty horrific, isn't it? You can kill somebody in a tweet. How many tweets, Instagrams, phone calls, faxes, handwritten letters, whatever people do, whatever they're willing to do, is that stuff actually matters, because in our unfortunate system of today, it's a gig. These senators, these Congress people have a gig, and they spend their whole time, the second they're in office, looking for re-election. So they're basically auditioning all the way till they get the part again, and then they start auditioning again. So amidst that auditioning time, they need to know that they will not be invited back to the audition unless. So let's look at our key players who are already in the House. Who's in the House? Who's ever already in the House that is an advocate, that is an affinity partner of ours, that thinks like us, they need all the love and backing they can get, because just like what Obama said, it's the same from top to bottom. You got to make them do it. If they say, look, they made me do it. Did I really want to drink clean water? Did I really want to have air that didn't give me lung cancer? Did I really want to have all this really good medicine? Did I really want my mother not to die of coronavirus? Of course not. Of course not. I didn't want any of that stuff, but they made me do it. And that way they can get away with it. Because if you look at AOC and others right now, they're under this, it's not a microscope, it's a proctoscope. And they're being bludgeoned and given death threats, but there doesn't seem to be, even though we all support, we kind of support quietly in the background. We need to support loudly.
Yeah, you make it. Oh, go ahead, Cary.
No, please.
No, you make you make a good point. And in fact, this was my question about the squad, because we're talking about the squad right now. Amongst progressives or the left, whatever you want to call it, there is a bit of cynicism, I think. Especially a lot of this cynicism is geared toward the squad and geared toward AOC. And I want to know what you think about this, because this has been going on now for a while, but it kind of boiled over recently. And I'm sure you're aware this was this whole force the vote thing, where Jimmy Dore had this idea that let's get on the floor of the House and let's do a roll call vote on Medicare for all, which I think at the foundation is a good idea. But this thing blew up, and I think part of it comes from the fact that there are some people who are very cynical about the squad. They think that the squad is sold out. So, I mean, what you're saying is we need to really support them. So how do we combat this cynicism?
Well, gosh, this is a much bigger conversation. You know that. I could hear you in the back of your head thinking, "Oh my God, this is a much bigger conversation." So let me just identify, to my peril, and I say that freely, to my peril. Let me identify some of the problems that we that we feel, and that we witness on call it the left. We're not really the left. We're really the center. The left is an entirely different organism. We used to be the left, and then everything moved to the right. So now we're the center. We're like normal people. Like, I just want clean water. That's not left. That's like normal. So we're the normal people. The problem is that the right doesn't mind getting out of their chair and going and doing something about it. And this is not to say, I mean, yes, we show up, we march, BLM, we do all kinds of amazing things. But just generally speaking, on a daily basis, we're not doing them. We do it like moments, big moments. But the right are at it every day. They're at it at church. They're at it just all day. Old ladies licking stamps. And we don't do that. We just kind of start doing this, and we meditate and feel vortices. I'm not kidding, am I? I'm serious. Now, I live in LA, but when I was on KPFK, which is the public radio station here, which was the most progressive place you're going to hear anything, so many of our funding sources came from a lot of rich people in Malibu. And they would just talk about meditating homelessness away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm serious.
You're laughing, but I've heard
that station makes money talking to these people.
The only way it makes money.
Here you've got somebody in a chaise lounge being handed an iced tea on probably a warm day. It might be high 70s. And they're going to meditate the fucking homeless away. I'll just meditate, and they'll self-feed, and that problem goes away. I certainly don't have to see or smell them, that's for sure. And that's what happens, is a lot of people fall into this trap where they're just comfortable enough that they can use a little Marianne Williamson to get out of it. We'll just kind of, put some mojo out there and the problem vanish. Well, guess what? They don't vanish, they multiply. The only thing that stops bleeding is a tourniquet or a Band-Aid. And if we're not in the Band-Aid manufacturing or tourniquet tying business, it gets worse incrementally by the day. So it is all hands on deck. What the right does well, we need to learn to do that well, but just not mean.
Just not trying to exterminate whole groups of people.
Other than that.
Right. So we have major, multiple crises that Biden has stepped into. Again, some of them: climate change, housing, homelessness, extreme poverty, racism. We're talking about a lot of things happening all at the same time. He's got pretty much, he's got a perfect time to be able to implement the changes that we've been fighting for. So this is why I was saying it's really going to be critical, important for us to stay vocal, for us to be involved in local politics, because what happens on the ground really affects the top, So we got to start doing those things. what are you seeing on the ground locally that can also help on the larger picture? Is there any connections to that? Do you think we're in the right thinking to get involved locally?
Well, the only thing I see on the ground is usually my dog's poop because everyone's at home with their mask on, at least in my neighborhood, but apparently not in the rest of town or the rest of the country. Um, I don't see a lot on the ground. I see a lot of hopefulness. I see a lot of gratitude for some cherry-picked things that Biden has smartly done that makes him look good. My concern, which is your concern too, is that we're going to feel like we got fed, we got a little love so we can relax and that great things are coming down the pike. Nothing comes down the pike unless you make it come down the pike. So I can't know really what's on the ground because I'm also stuck in a virtual world like you guys are. And a German friend of mine said, he's a German radio guy, when there was this, I think it was January 6th, I think it was, he said, why aren't you people pouring onto the streets? I said, well, I didn't have that answer. I mean, seriously, we should have been pouring on the streets for democracy. When QAnon loonies were doing a siege on the Capitol, we should have been on the streets pouring out for democracy, and we didn't. And I said, it's a cultural thing. And we spend more time than ever trying to figure out why we don't do what we need to do at the moment when it actually needs to be done. We wait like 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years later. No, it's true. Look at Hollywood, bless Hollywood. But I mean, last year we saw a movie on 2008, How the Crasher, years later, months later, CNN does a documentary on here's what you can't do anymore about it. I don't care. It ought to be on the nightly news that night. So I think what we need to do is exactly what we're talking about. We know what the issues are that are the hot buttons. We know that the honeymoon is the first 100 days. Why? Because you can do everything in the first 100 days. They scream and yell at you. They kick up a fuss. And then after that, they find ways to block you. But during the courtship, during the honeymoon, during the beginning, you can get a lot of stuff done. And then it all slows down to a grind and becomes a big political fight. So this is where we need to be thanking him and praising him, because hate does not get them to do anything good. If they think that they're being loved, that they're being supported, that their administration, that their funders, that everyone is supporting all of these curious moves, they're going to do more curious moves because it elicits good response. So this is a time for all of us to really turn up the heat, get together like Republicans, and every day tweet, boy, that Nancy Pelosi, is descending she doesn't have an ovary anymore, but she is, boy, she's on fire and I like her. I said bad stuff about her in the past, but I'm rethinking that position. I
don't think you're going to get anyone to say that.
Well, that's why I was like fumbling. There's got to be something. So forget that.
But look at we do have to be out there and recognizing. And I'm going to say this because sometimes I get a lot of heat too, because sometimes we have to recognize when a politician that may not be well liked actually does something good. They need to know that, because in the other year they have lobbyists calling them, talking to them, and pressuring them. We have to be equally, not even more voiceful, talking to them and recognizing them when they do something that may be in the best interest of America, including the fact that he stopped the Keystone Pipe, from that. I mean, those things. We got to recognize that.
We have to do like a yes and kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, those are big moves. And to your point, both Carlos and Margot, that's exactly right. That's a big deal, stopping the Keystone. That's a big deal. If you turned on Bloomberg or CNBC or even Fox Business News in the last couple of days, you would have seen the CEOs of the Petroleum Institute and all the others. Well, this is an outrage. I mean, America's going to suffer. We're providing the oil, and these poor people who are already in a world of hurt won't be able to drive their fine automobiles on our 10-lane freeways. They're all going nuts. And so, yes, he's getting a rasher of, what for that. This is a great time for us to say, you go, Joe, go, Joe, go, Joe, go, Joe. And whoever gave him that idea, it's not like he thought of it. Whatever his dog's name is, what do you think we stopped that? No, this is not anything that's fun for him. And the blowback is impossibly difficult. So he did it anyway. So go, Joe, go, Joe. I mean, he's a sports guy. If he hears go, Joe 24/7, he's going to be running that ball right. I mean, we know it.
He's going to keep doing more, right? Quick question. Insert Bernie Sanders into the pretty much
into the mittens.
Yeah. I mean, Bernie Sanders right there. He's the chairman now. And he gets more. He got more attention than the president himself.
Yeah, he sure did. He's all over my Instagram feed.
That chair, I haven't heard that before. That's good.
But he's the chair.
We are stronger than we were 4 years ago as far as more people in Congress that lean left, that lean progressive. Those are good things. And having him there, Joe owes him. Joe owes Bernie the presidency because Bernie really took him over nobody liked the Joe. And Bernie Sanders was out there fighting every single day.
Damn, he was. He really was. Yeah, and I know this was for Cary, but this just reminds me again of this issue of the cynicism that I'm seeing, because Cary, you're talking a lot about we gotta pump Biden up. We gotta say, yes, you did the right thing, like with the Keystone Pipeline. Even though I think it was still a safe thing to do, because with Obama's administration, they were already saying this Keystone thing needs to come to an end. But still, he did it. He didn't have to do it, and he did it, and that is something that we have to acknowledge. But at the same time, I'm talking about this cynicism. I still see it, and I'm already seeing it coming out again with the segments of a speech that Biden has given, which makes it look like he really is not doing anything. There was a clip that a friend sent me of him saying well, there's nothing we can do about the pandemic, and it was clearly a very short cut from the longer speech that probably had some background that went into making this statement, but it made it sound like he was just going to be like Trump and not going to do anything, which we know is not true. So this is what concerns me, and I'm worried that tying in Bernie, because Bernie is in a very powerful position now, and this is what we want. We want Bernie in these powerful positions because he and the squad are the only people at this level who really care about people like us. This is for me the big concern, because how are we going to bring people out if they immediately are already going into this feeling defeated?
Well, that's the age-old question, isn't it? I think part of what happens is in the not right community, the alt not right community, the rest of us,
the non-extremists.
I'm going to speak for the gay community, of which I am a member. Not card carrying, because we don't have a card. I want to make a card, but we don't have one. The problem that I identify, generally speaking, in the gay community is all they want is gay shit, gay issues. That's it. And if it's not that, they just, water, air, climate change. I mean, I'm sure they would vote yes. Okay, sure, yeah. But they just want their own thing. And I think a lot of us who are not conservatives have a favorite issue. And if nobody is giving that favorite issue, enough love, they can go to hell. And they don't get it. and they're not really good people, and they're not really good progressives. And I think that's how a lot of people see it. They've got this kind of favorite issue, just like people who build charities. You know, my charity does this. And if you're supporting that charity, you don't understand. This is really important. And we have a lot of this internecine fighting. And I think we're all strong enough to admit that. We do. It's hard to get any of us to be on the same page about any issue. You know, we get together as Bernie folks, we did during both of these previous elections. And we talked about, you know, what are the important things? And you'd get like 78 items. And then you have to fight over to try to get them down to 25 items. And you never really can. And so there's no like singleness of purpose other than we love Bernie. But what should Bernie do? Well, he doesn't have enough hands and arms and legs and mittens to do all of them all at once. He just needs to like do one. And this, I think we have this endless problem getting around. And when you're conservative, it's easier. You've got, you've got your amygdala driving you. So it's fear, flight, fuck you. It's whatever it is. And it's really simple. It's kill it, crush it, dominate it, or love it. That's it. There's no nuance and specialty flavors. It's just yup, nope. And we're not those people. So it's always going to have that problem, which is why in Europe they have parliaments, you know, and green parties and yellow parties and pink parties. And then they all get together and they figure something out. We don't even have that. We have like the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and they're kind of the same thing. The Democratic Party is just on a 6-month delay. They'll say no today and 6 months later say yes. There, same outcome. And the rest of us are going, yeah, but wait a minute. So, gosh, it's tough because there are so many things that need to get done and we can't agree on it. And I don't have that answer except
You're fired. Just kidding.
You're fired. I know, right? But Go Joe is a good one. Because listen, if that geezer is having his 15 minutes at 80 years old and feeling like every time I do this, they get excited. Every time I do this thing that, you know, they get excited, shit, he'll do more.
I tell you, you know, some of the things that I sometimes I laugh at nighttime, you know, especially when progressives come together and we having an event. And all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to do a food run. Next thing you know, I got so many orders. I'm a vegan. You know.
What's your pronoun?
It's a nightmare going, you know, getting food for a whole bunch of progressives because, you know, I don't like eggs on mine. And I don't like.
I can't eat that. It's not
people.
Organic.
On the serious side, you know, look,
I'm vegan.
Everything, but we gotta focus.
Obviously.
And if climate change is your thing, I always say this: become the expert of climate change. So that way, when we have as an organizer and a community connector, I know the strengths of different people. So when, like, let's say, for example, the media call me on Friday and say, Carlos, we're looking for a family that is directly affected by what the sheriffs have done over the years because Governor Newsom has asked the Attorney General to start an investigation. You know, so I'm able to connect people that fight for those issues against the police and provide that. But so I think that one of the things that I always tell people is become the expert of whatever you love to do. If the case issues are your issues, become the expert of that. So when Carlos gets that call, I know to call you. You know, in this case, you know, with the different things regarding housing, we need every, you know, person that, you know, that cares about housing to keep fighting for housing. And don't get discouraged if you're seeing things not going the way you want to. But we have to continue this fight.
Yeah, Yeah, somnambulism is not the answer. Getting complacent and just deciding, well, we have a Democrat in and they'll handle it. They'll just handle it. It'll get better somehow. And it doesn't get better somehow. You might get one step forward and two back because you're not minding what are you supposed to mind? Minding the
gap.
Yeah,
Mind the
that.
gap.
Yes, yes. And so that's our job. I mean, this is part of civics. This is part of our system, is we are the government. And I think we forget that. Yes, it's a Republican form of government where we hire staff to go handle the stuff. What is the government? The government is your cleaning lady, period. It fills your potholes. It paves your roads. It gets the stuff done that you can't do, that you're not available to do, that you don't want to do. So you hire this staff. It's your butler. It's your cleaning lady. It's your flight attendant. That's the government. But you can't have a staff and run a house without ever meeting with them and telling them what it is you need. So our job is to tell the staff how to clean the house and what we need. And then we have to do that every day. Just like, I know it's kind of a Downton Abbey metaphor, but it sort of works the same way. You are the lord and lady of this Downton Abbey, and these are your staff, and they need to know, are you having dinner guests? Yes or no? Our job is to constantly provide that information. Maybe this is the metaphor that's going to work. Or not?
Well, yes, I think it's a combination of things. We are living definitely in interesting times. One of the things that really that I've been fighting for here in LA is giving voice to those people that are oppressed, the homeless crisis. We see it in every neighborhood. Give us some of your thoughts on that.
Wow.
I know I'm asking for a lot, but we see it.
Got you on the hot seat, Cary.
Yeah. I mean, wow. LA is extraordinary because we had pre-pandemic 80,000 homeless people. Those are the ones that we actually counted, which is the most on Earth when you don't factor in climate dislocation, like in sub-Saharan Africa and other places, or Yemen or Syria. But just like regular, everyday homeless people, 80,000. Add the pandemic, I have no idea. I don't even know if they can or are counting the extra 10,000. Then we're going to have foreclosures. What does that look like? I'll tell you, when I first came to LA, which is over 20 years ago, first of all, I had never seen like a Rolls Royce and a Bentley on the same day, ever. I mean, where do you see that? But I mean, I would see this stuff and go, wow, this is crazy. And I went to, I think there's a lot of people in LA watching this, and people everywhere, but LA, you've seen it on TV enough, you know what we're talking about. There is a grocery store on the corner, and Carlos, you'll know what it is. Is it called Briar Farms, on the corner of Sunset and Fairfax?
Yes.
That's it. And it's super fancy. I've only been in there once because, boy, I do not have the budget for that joint. But there was a Rolls Royce parked there and a homeless guy asleep on his tire. And this was the most powerful image because it was the counterpoint between this incredible abundance of power, prestige, and money, and up yours, and then the literal opposite, asleep on his tire. And you can't really have that in the same spot, except you do here. And you do here because it's unnatural. Like anywhere where you're going to have those kind of cars, you're going to have the infrastructure to support people and a lifestyle that has those kind of cars. But it goes to show that something really wholly unnatural is happening where they're blending together. And that's where you have dirt floors and marble floors and not much in between. And that's a choice. It's not oops, didn't know. We didn't know. Are you kidding? I walk out my door and there's always a homeless person. And, you give them $1, you give them some food. You have to, because they ought to just go get a job. Really? Like doing what?
Yeah.
And what are they going to dress in? The tarpaulin they're wearing, the burlap? But do you like the burlap? Maybe cinch it up around the waist? Seriously. I mean, it's easy to say that, and then you feel superior, and you can go away, and you feel like I solved that problem. But there's so many moving parts with a homeless person that most people don't even imagine. They just see the outcome is the homeless person. How did they get there? What was their life like 5 years earlier? You're going to need to give them a shower. You're going to need to show them how to use Microsoft Word. I mean, seriously, there's like basic stuff that everybody kind of needs to know today to be able to do stuff. There's so much that's involved. So the short answer is this. We used to have, back during the ascension of King Ronald I, you will have read about him in history books, the Gipper, and he got together with pharmaceutical companies, and they came up with something called Prozac. We've all heard of Prozac. It was the first real antidepressant. There was something in the 50s and 60s called Nardil, which was a Mayo inhibitor. And so if you ate raisins or chocolate, you died. So you had to be on this really rigid diet because it worked on your digestive system. Well, wow. Prozac is this miracle thing. So they could give a dose of Prozac to people that were I don't even know what we call them anymore because we haven't had them in decades and decades, but mental health centers or asylums or whatever they were called. But these people were wards of the state, and they were housed and they were taken care of if they really had chronic mental problems. And we see this in LA, maybe not where you live, but in LA, you're going to see every day. And Carlos, you're going to see it 20 times more than I ever do. People shaking their fist at the skies and having one hell of an argument in a debate with nobody standing there. And there are thousands like that, and they have no help, and they can't get a job because nobody's going to hire that person. And so in civilized countries, we can go back to formerly known as Nazi Germany or France or England or Switzerland or Denmark and Belgium and on and on forever and ever. Amen. They all take care of the least fortunate people. It's called having a civilization. And it's just part of what you do so that regular people don't have somebody, if you have a small business, somebody isn't vomiting on your front steps. What happens if you have a small business and somebody's vomiting on your front steps? Nobody is ever going to walk through your door again if they see it, ever. And they're going to tell all their neighbors, oh my God, you know what I just saw? You're never going to go in that store. That business goes belly up. You handle stuff. But we've been conditioned to think that somehow our tax money should not go to people who are unwilling to work. Well, unable to work is more the case. And by the way, does anyone know where their tax money goes? Well, no, I have no idea. You know, in democratic socialism that Bernie Sanders speaks about, say that 5 times quickly, they know where their money goes. They get this incredible high-end public transportation that everyone can ride. Their water is handled, their pollution. It's not paradise, but it's pretty damn good. And guess what? You get old, you get infirm, your rent is paid. What do you mean my rent is paid? I thought I had, no, it's handled. And you get Social Security. You never wither and starve to death as an old person. You never get thrown to the sidewalk. You don't have to go to some creepy old age home and die of coronavirus. It's handled. So they get money for their taxes, and they know where their taxes go. Why? Because we're the ones that own our government, but they actually own their government. They'll just pour in the streets as they do in France and say, no, you're not taking away Social Security. And guess what happens? They don't take away Social Security. And it works. No politician in the world likes a constituent showing up. They hate it. So I guess the long way with the homeless is we need to, and we have good people out there who are working with the homeless. We need to create and reset 30 years ago. the idea that when people cannot take care of themselves adequately, that it's part of our social responsibility to do so, because we know we save 4 cents on a dollar when we do it. We pay 7 cents on a dollar when we don't. And seeing is everything in America is all about money. We just saved 3 cents and solved a problem. Next.
Exactly. Wow. Cary, such a pleasure in having you with us today. I know we passed the hour, but I can talk to you all day long. That's how I feel.
Me too.
When I'm out there delivering mail, Margaret, I run into this guy, and it turns out to be a little longer than my break. So I have to take my lunch time, so that I can have a good conversation with Cary. But very knowledgeable. Thank you for all your input. Any other questions you have, Margaret, for Cary?
I could ask him a million more questions, but I don't want to keep anyone too long. So I'll
Was I
have
calling
to.
you Margot instead of Margaret?
No, it's Margot, but Carlos calls me Margaret. So
Okay,
I don't mind.
It's my accent.
I don't correct people so long as they hit all the letters. So yeah, if it was Margaret, I might say,
Yeah,
wait a
yeah.
minute.
That's too much.
Yeah. But no, you're totally fine. Totally fine. So
Well,
no,
thank
I
you
don't.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for unzipping the fly of possibility here and dealing with all the mayhem. I love your show. What you guys are doing is so powerfully important, and giving a forum for these ideas to be brought forth by all of us. So you're doing part of that work. You're not just sitting at home going, "What's on TV?" Feed me more vacation time. But you're reminding us that if we don't get it done, nobody else will. This is Downton Abbey. Your butler is sitting there going, well, what do you want me to do today? Nothing.
Yeah, right.
It's not much of a dinner table.
We definitely got to have you back again, Cary.
Yes.
Appreciate you taking the time. By the way, how's Wiley?
Wiley, my reindeer chihuahua, is 15 years old, which makes him 140. So he is a fierce geezer, and he's perky as hell despite a heart murmur, kidney problems, and liver problems. But other than that, he doesn't know he's got those problems, so it's fine.
I love to see Wiley. You ought to see him. He's like a reindeer.
Oh, so
The
cute.
way he walks and everything. You taught him well, Cary.
I did. He takes after his father.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I guess we should wrap up now. Again, thank you, Cary, so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure having you, and you really made my morning very fun. Not to say that Carlos doesn't make my morning very fun every Sunday morning, but that is a nice element that I really appreciated. It's got me laughing, which was great. We need to laugh more, I think, especially now that we're coming out of this sort of darkness, hopefully, and into some light. So thank you. And I really hope to have you back with us again. Carlos, do you have any last thoughts before I do our sign off?
Yes. I like to tell people that, look, things are not perfect. We have somebody in the White House that perhaps, as I said earlier, nobody expected to have. We all love Bernie. Bernie's not the president, but Bernie still is a big influencer. You saw in the powerful memes that people released everywhere. I seen people that were not politically connected putting Bernie Sanders memes. This morning I saw one from one of the wrestlers, the kickback wrestler that got knocked out. Somebody created a meme on that, and he became so powerful. The man is an influencer, and you also can continue to be an influencer, because through the Bernie Sanders movement, we were able to give voice to a lot of the issues that we never gave voice to. And it's been a struggle for many of us, accepting some of the realities. But we move forward. We move forward. We are not defeated. We're stronger than ever, and the best is yet to come. Let me see your meme.
And there that's great. I love that. That's fantastic. There's been such amazing memes out there with this. I love every single one. So, but we better go. I want to thank all of our viewers for staying on with us for an hour and 15 minutes. And again, I would love to, I want to thank our poet extraordinaire, Antonieta, who joined us at the beginning of the hour. And we do plan to have her on. We want to bring some more poets out. We were really inspired by the inauguration to do this, and I think it added a very amazing and unique and special element to the show. So I think we're going to try to do more of this going forward. And lastly, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge everybody who has been living through this pandemic. That's all of us, and to acknowledge the people who have gone sick from COVID, who have been in the hospital, and those who have unfortunately passed away. I think all of us now have been touched by at least knowing somebody who has gotten this disease. And we just want everyone to know that we are all in this together, and you're not alone in this. And just do the best you can, and stay safe, stay healthy, and wear a mask. And don't hold any negative feelings inside. Share them with others. Mental health right now is so important, so don't let the stigma get to you. So that's all I have to say. Those are my final thoughts. So thank you everyone for joining us. You've been watching Stand Up Fight Back. I'm Margot Pius, your co-host, and over on this side, that's Carlos Marroquin, our other co-host. We air every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then on occasion we do a special evening show at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll let you know as those shows get scheduled. So tonight we aren't having one, but we will very soon. So again, thank you. Please share us with your friends, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye.